Hello, I'm Emily Huseman, and this is my presentation for Luna, the final project. The party I will be talking about today is family, so please enjoy. Starting off with the question, what challenges does Luna's family face? So, one of the major challenges that we see is acceptance and open mindedness, and we can see this through mom, dad, and Regan. We do also see conflicting emotions from Luna as she is trying to get ready to blossom into who she wants and needs to be, but we're primarily going to focus on the other family members. But we're going to elaborate on each point. Firstly, starting with Dad, who has a lot of gender, sex influenced ideas throughout the story. And some of these examples would be um, trying to get Luna into sports or getting buff. And this is before Luna becomes Luna. At this point, Luna's still Liam. But, um, so we kind of know that Dad puts a lot of gender expectations on Regan and Luna and even enforces these ideas. Next, we have Mom, who kind of distances herself from the family and ignores any important or troubling situations. And we see this when she's on the phone with work, she leaves early, she's always taking pills, etc., etc. Lastly, we have Regan, who has a lot of conflicting emotions, and we can see this more since it's from her perspective. Um, and we kind of know that she's there for Luna, but there is instances where we can see that she's carrying a lot of anxiety and fear of when Luna's around. For instance, at the mall, going to Taco Bell, at school, we see this fear appear. But overall, Regan is trying very hard to be accepting and open minded. The next challenge that the family faces is family bonding. And we see that there's a huge lack of communication between everybody. And this causes their relationship to kind of stiffen. And one of the first points that I'm going to make is that Luna fears her dad and it prevents her from opening up. Her dad mentions in the story that Liam, aka Luna, is not as open or honest as he was before and questions whether or not Liam is gay. So that is just one of the examples. But going on to Mom, we know that she is really not around for anybody but herself and is always kind of on the phone, ignoring her children, her husband, and focusing more on work rather than what's happening around her, and quickly leaves when things get weird. Um, and this is kind of a form of dissociation. Lastly, we have Regan and Luna, who are close and they're open to each other, but there's a lack of communication with Regan and how she feels about Luna, and this actually kind of causes an impact on their relationship. It causes a lot of anxiety and anger towards Luna from Regan's perspective. Um, and it kind of makes their relationship go downward, but towards the end, their relationship kind of blossoms in a way that's healthy, that puts a peace of mind towards Regan and Luna. The last challenge that the family faces is the pressures of society, and that is the fear of what others will think. And I know this is only the bullet point on this slide, but it really shows how mom, dad, and Regan feel all together in a more indirect and direct way. But looking at mom's perspective first, we know that in the story, Luna mentions to Regan that when their mom learned of Luna's identity, she was very quick to make sure that Luna concealed her identity from anyone, um, outside or inside the family, including Regan and Dad, especially Dad, as she mentions. And looking at Dad's perspective, we know he is very quick to shut down anything that is like a feminine act for Liam. Like, for instance, wanting to wash dishes, cook a meal, as things like that, or wanting a bra. He was very quick to shut it down. So when Luna introduces herself to their dad, He looks at her and says that she looks like a clown and tells her not to go out and tries very, very hard to prevent her from being able to leave the house. And these are just a few examples that we can see from the parents in the story. But looking at Regan, we can see the much deeper emotional feeling from her because we can see into her mind. And we know that she's not appalled by who Luna is, but she is very fearful of anybody that she knows seeing Luna. And we can see this when they go to the mall, Taco Bell, or even school. She's either very quick to make sure that they're in an unfamiliar area, like for instance when they went to the mall, or hide Luna when there's people that she knows that are around, like at Taco Bell with her and Chris. So the next big question is, how did Luna's family handle these challenges? And I decided to break it into 3 different sides between Mom, Dad, and Regan. So let's get into it. Firstly, looking at quotes for Mom, we see for the first one, it says, Mom's head shook side to side, her gaze lowered, and she flipped open her day timer on the table. The next quote is, she stood and marched off towards her bedroom. And then lastly, I can't handle it today. These quotes were found on chapter 24 and really showed how Mom handled the whole situation when Luna came out as transgender. Next, we look at Dad's quotes. The first one is, you are sick, he hissed. You are sick. The next one is, extracting her car keys from her purse, Dad impaled himself against the door. You are not leaving this house just like that. You look like a clown. So these 2 quotes really show how Dad reacted to seeing Luna as well. And as we can see for Mom and Dad, we see a consistent issue within their challenges. Lastly, we see some quotes from Regan's perspective. The first quote being, all at once the weight of the world dissolved and I felt myself expand, grow. The same way Luna must feel to be free. I realized she freed both of us. The next quote is, I was proud to be her sister, her friend. And then the last quote is, I never see my brother again. And these are all from chapter 26, and I kind of wanted to include these because it kind of shows the mix of emotions as Regan kind of handled these challenges, and I personally feel like she really came a long way. My thoughts and opinions on how everybody handled these challenges. First off, for the parents, I feel like they both did not handle this very well. I totally understand emotions get confusing, and it's very difficult, and that part I totally understand. For Mom, I feel like it could have been done very differently. She could have mentioned it to Regan or Dad, or basically been there to support as best as she could, especially if she knew. But if she was not supportive, I still think it was still handled very poorly. As far as Dad, I feel like he might have got too aggressive about it. But I can also see how it might be very confusing for him. It's the same thing with Allie's perspective. It just gets really confusing. As far as Regan, I think Regan handled it very beautifully. She was very accepting, not too aggressive about it, but I also kind of feel like she should have voiced her opinions towards Luna, and it might have helped her with her anxiety or fear. So overall, it's a very difficult situation for anybody, and everybody's going to react differently. But there are things that could have been handled differently from all 3 of them. So bringing us to our next question, how do families in the United States handle these challenges in a supportive way? So 5 major points is taking the time to learn and listen, creating a safe environment within their home, using correct names and pronouns, providing support groups, educating, celebrating, and advocating. And these are just 5 small ways. that are supportive to transgender children and adults. In an article that I read, Parenting My Transgender Child From Loss to Acceptance by Justin Larson, really had a quote that resonated with me, which he was ready, we were not. And the article goes through the emotions that the parents go through and the journey that they experience with their child, to help support and give just a life that their child deserved. And I really wanted to compare this article specifically with the story Luna to kind of show the difference between a majority of the families that have transgender children. And within their article, they take the time to explain that they did not want their child to be transgender, but they took the time to learn and adapt. And if we compare that to Luna, we know that the parents in Luna did not do that. So it really shows that just taking the time to understand and support your child goes a long way for their physical and mental health. And we see that in Luna, it did not end well, and it ended up with Luna leaving to benefit their health and their needs. So looking at the other side of how families in the United States handle these challenges in a non-supportive way would be misgendering, being dismissive and ignoring the situation, only accepting their existence if it follows their normalities, withholding love and care, kicking them out or holding them hostage. These ways we see a lot in Luna by Luna's parents. And I feel like it's incredibly important to be supportive even if you do not agree with this idea, just because these people are feeling ways that we cannot imagine. And withholding love and care and keeping a toxic or an unwelcoming environment can really hurt somebody's mental health and physical health. And the 3 other articles that I read, one of them being a video and then the other 2 being articles, the 2 articles really go over more supportive ideas, but the video, The World Transgender Kids, BBC, kind of talks about being supportive, but also talks about the negatives about being non-supportive, such as the increased rate of suicide within kids that come out as transgender but they do not have any support. So just examples like that. With the last question, do I think families should handle these issues differently? And in my opinion, I absolutely do. I think it's important to take a step back and become educated. And you do not have to fully agree, but education goes a long way. It might change your perspectives. It might help you understand better and hold yourself accountable for your actions. And the next thing is create healthy boundaries, which I spelled healthy wrong. But yes, create healthy boundaries for yourself and with the other person. If you feel like things would get physical or toxic, it is important to create these boundaries that are suitable for you and the other person. And then also attend support groups. It might be difficult to let out your emotions alone, so attending support groups where you don't know anybody, you can let out these feelings, and they might make you feel way better. Lastly, this is my We're Excited page. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you for going through my presentation, and I hope you guys enjoyed and maybe even learned something.